Betrayed by kin, a mother and daughter escaped a murderous trap. Their survival unveiled a $3 million insurance scheme, shattering a family's dark secrets. My name is Claire. I'm 34 years old, a lab technician at a private medical center in Burlington, Vermont. My day starts at 6 a.m. I drop off my 6-year-old daughter, Sophie, at the elementary school near our house, then head to the lab to face trays of blood, urine, and nameless analysis forms. It's not glamorous, but I love it for its precision, quiet diligence, and consistency. Sophie is the one thing I'm most proud of. She has her father's soft brown curls and my green eyes, always full of light. Every afternoon, I try to pick her up myself instead of letting the school bus bring her home. When she runs to me, arms wide, eager to show a drawing or a new song for music class, I feel most like a mother. My husband, Ryan, used to be the man I believed was my soulmate. He works in real estate, often traveling to oversee housing developments in distant suburbs. Ryan was once gentle, warm, and driven, but lately, he's been pulling away, coming home late, blaming last-minute client meetings on weekends we could have spent as a family. When Sophie runs to him with a picture, he nods absent-mindedly and looks at his phone. Sometimes, I feel like the maid in my own home. My parents, Henry and Evelyn, live a 20-minute drive away in a lakeside cottage near Lake Champlain. They're retired, and I always believed their love for Sophie was genuine. They'd bake cookies, turn on cartoons, and listen to her school stories for hours. But recently, something shifted in how my mom looks at Sophie, not cold, but cautious, like she's something Evelyn would rather not touch. My older sister, Lauren, is the opposite. 5 years older, she was prom queen in high school and now works as a marketing director for a cosmetics company in Boston. Lauren, never married and childless, often jokes I live like an old lady. Still, she never misses a family dinner, always dressed to impress, casually mentioning business trips to Paris or Milan. 2 weeks ago, at dinner around Dad's grilled ribs, Lauren made a strange suggestion. Have you ever thought Sophie might do better somewhere else? Like Boston, great private schools. She could stay with me for a few months. I stared, stunned. What are you talking about? She's 6 and I'm her mother. Lauren smiled, but it didn't warm me. I'm just thinking about her future. You're busy. Ryan's always away. I want to help. I didn't respond, but that night, lying next to a sleeping Sophie, an unease took over. Ryan's late nights, Mom's strange looks, Lauren's words, they were puzzle pieces forming a picture I didn't want to see. The next morning, while washing Sophie's hair, she looked up and asked, Mom, if one day I don't live with you anymore, will you be sad? My heart stopped.
Who told you that?
I asked, staying calm. Grandma's friend's granddaughter said I'll go to a faraway school and live with someone named Elle. She didn't finish, but I knew Lauren. What I didn't know was this was just the beginning of a larger plan with Sophie as the centerpiece. 3 days later, Ryan came home after 10 p.m. I sat at the kitchen table, lights on, dinner cold. He hung up his coat and said, Sorry, a client extended the meeting again. I didn't ask anything, served him dinner, and sat down. I didn't want to fight, not because I was weak, but because silence sometimes reveals what people hide. Ryan ate, eyes on his phone. He turned away while texting, and for a split second, I saw a name flash in the glass cabinet's reflection. Elle, call back Lauren. The name froze me. My instincts as a mother and wife screamed something was wrong. The next day, when I picked up Sophie, her teacher said, Sophie had trouble sleeping. She mentioned someone told her she might move away from you. Claire, is everything okay? I forced a smile, thanked her, and rushed Sophie home, my mind racing.
I didn't tell Ryan.
Instead, I called Mom. Has Lauren said anything about Sophie lately? A long pause. She's just talking about the future, Claire. She thinks Sophie deserves a better school. No one has the right to talk about her future except me, I said, frustration rising. Mom sighed. You're a good mom, but you're stretched thin. Ryan's always working. Lauren's just trying to help. Help. I was starting to hate that word. 2 days later, Lauren dropped by at lunchtime. I'd just returned from the lab. Ryan was meeting a client. Lauren brought 2 lattes and a bag of kids' clothes. I went shopping, she smiled, setting the bag down. I thought Sophie would love this purple dress. I didn't touch the coffee or bag, looking her in the eyes. What are you doing, Lauren? She blinked, then laughed lightly.
What?
I'm just bringing gifts for my niece. And trying to convince everyone she should live with you, away from her mother. Is that what you're doing? Lauren set her cup down harder, voice smooth. Claire, you're overreacting. Do you know how much pressure Ryan is under? Mom and Dad worry too. We just want what's best for Sophie. What's best is for her to stay with her mother. A crooked smile flickered across Lauren's face. Not the sister I used to know. If you think being a mother means you get to decide everything, you're mistaken. Children aren't property. That night, I found an unopened envelope in Ryan's coat pocket from a law firm in Boston, documents about child custody consultation, and a draft for temporary guardianship transfer. I sat alone in the living room, the house silent except for the clock ticking. One question echoed. How are they planning to take my daughter away? Sophie was asleep, clutching her stuffed bunny, but I couldn't watch her sleep calmly. A storm was coming, not from outside, but from the people who shared my blood. I couldn't stay still anymore. I was protecting Sophie from a plan, from a world I once believed was family. That Saturday, Mom called, her voice cheerful. Claire, we're planning a picnic at Green Mountain National Forest, about a 2-hour drive. We'll hike along a creek and watch the leaves fall. Sophie's going to love it. Lauren's coming too. Dad's packed lunch. Just get yourself and Sophie ready. I paused, feeling something off. My family wasn't outdoorsy, and last-minute outings in chilly fall were unusual. But Sophie, overhearing, shouted, Mom, I want to go. I'll bring my magnifying glass. Maybe I'll find a rare red leaf. I smiled and patted her head. How could I say no when her eyes sparkled?
That night, I told Ryan.
He closed his laptop, frowning. Saturday, I've got a site visit with an investor. Probably won't make it. I wasn't surprised. These meetings were as common as fallen leaves. I nodded. Then I'll take Sophie. But Ryan, do you feel like something's changed in our family? He was quiet, then said, You're probably just overthinking. Some fresh air might do good. Saturday morning, I packed sandwiches, fruit, water, and bandages. My job made me cautious. Sophie wore her green beanie, showing off her tiny magnifying glass. My parents' car arrived. Dad drove, Mom in the passenger seat, Lauren in the back, with Sophie and me. Lauren wore a trendy athletic outfit and expensive hiking shoes. Odd since she'd never hiked, but I didn't ask. I observed. The weather was crisp, sunlight filtering through trees. We walked winding trails in Green Mountain National Forest, reaching a narrow dirt path into a sparse forest. Dad said, This is a newer route. Not many people know it. The view is amazing. I felt uneasy. This path didn't match the routes we took when I was a kid. Still, I said nothing. Sophie chattered, pointing at branches. Mom, this leaf looks like a heart. Lauren glanced at me over her sunglasses, turning away when I caught her, pretending to check her phone. Texting someone? I asked. She paused, then smiled. Just checking the weather. Signal's bad up here. Mom chimed in. Today's going to be a special day, Claire. One you'll never forget. Her smile made my skin crawl. Dad kept checking the rearview mirror, eyes flicking from me and Sophie to the road. We stopped at a clearing near a gentle slope, a valley of pines dotted with orange and red leaves in the distance. The breeze was light, but my unease wouldn't fade. Dad parked, saying, From here, it's a 20-minute walk to a cliff with a breathtaking view. No one in the family's been there yet. I slung my backpack over my shoulder, held Sophie's hand, and followed. As we entered denser trees, Lauren fell back beside me, asking, Have you thought about sending Sophie to boarding school? I stopped cold. No, and I have no plans to. Lauren shrugged. There are things you can't control forever, Claire. Life changes fast. It wasn't threatening, but it prickled my skin. Sophie ran ahead, calling, Mom, there's a high spot. You can see the whole mountain. My parents and Lauren moved toward the cliff's edge. I noticed they brought little, just water bottles, no blankets, food, or maps. I gripped Sophie's hand tighter, heart pounding. Then I saw Mom give Lauren a signal with her eyes. I slowed, pulling Sophie closer as we neared the edge. The Green Mountain Valley came into view, sunlight slicing through trees, eerily peaceful. Dad stood at the edge, pointing. See that, Claire? If we go further, there's another ledge. The view's incredible. I went once. I nodded, eyes on Mom's hand tied around her nearly empty backpack. Lauren stepped closer, squeezing my shoulder. Ever wonder if life could be easier, Claire? I turned, suspicious. What are you talking about? She smiled, cold. Suddenly, she reached for my arm. I recoiled, pulling Sophie back. Get your hand off me, Lauren. Claire, I need to show you something. Just a second. Before she finished, Dad stepped toward Sophie. She smiled. Grandpa, did you see the eagle? Of course, sweetheart. Come here. I'll show you. He lifted her, walking toward the edge. It happened in seconds, but time stopped. I screamed, Stop. Put her down. Mom shoved me hard from behind. I stumbled, my foot slipping, hands flailing until one gripped a branch along the cliff's edge. Lauren stepped closer, her face ice-cold. I'm sorry, Claire, but this is necessary. It'll be over quickly. I struggled to stay upright, eyes on Sophie, writhing in Dad's arms. Dad, put her down. She's your granddaughter. He didn't flinch, his expression calm, eerie. She won't remember any of this. It'll be over soon, Claire, for both of you. Panic exploded. This wasn't a staged accident. It was a planned plot with Sophie and me as targets. In a split second, I threw myself forward, hurling my body to reach Sophie's dangling legs, pulling her with all my strength. Dad lost his balance, stumbled, and I lost my footing. Everything was wind roaring, and the blue sky spinning. I wrapped my arms around Sophie, curling myself around her like a shield. She screamed, "Mommy!" I held her close, as if a mother's love could slow the fall. We hit branches, slammed against rocks. Pain burst through my shoulder, back, and legs. I couldn't tell where I was injured, only that Sophie was still in my arms. When we landed on damp earth at the cliff's bottom, blood ran from my forehead, blurring everything. Sophie trembled, but was alive. I whispered, "Are you okay, Sophie?"
Mommy, I'm scared.
Darkness swept over me, but I knew I had to stay awake. I was Sophie's only anchor. Pain screamed through my body. My left eye was swollen shut, my head spinning. My left wrist felt broken, my right leg numb. Blood and damp soil filled my nose. I cradled Sophie, her faint breath warm against my neck. I opened my eyes carefully. Trees loomed, branches filtering pale light. The air was silent. I swallowed and turned my head. Sophie stared at me, eyes brimming. "Mom, are we going to die?" I shook my head, pain jolting my shoulder. "No, I'm here, and we're going to live." She buried her face in my chest. We lay still until I heard whispers from the cliff top. "Do you see anything?" Evelyn's voice. "No, not moving," Henry replied flatly.
Good.
"No one comes out here. No one's going to find them," Lauren said, relieved but unsure. I pressed my hand over Sophie's mouth, signaling silence. She nodded, tucking her face into my shirt. "Let's go. If they're alive, they're not getting out," Mom added. I held my breath as their footsteps faded. When they were gone, I loosened my hand. Sophie whispered, "Mom, what if they come back and find out we're alive? Maybe we should pretend we're not." I stared, speechless. She was 6, yet understood the danger. I nodded. "Yeah, let's stay still a little longer." I pulled her close, shut my eyes, and kept us still. Time stopped in that forest, only wind and distant birds. Anger spread through my veins, not from the fall, but from betrayal. My parents, Lauren, the man I loved, had planned to eliminate us like obstacles. Sophie lifted her head, eyes teary but clear. "Mom, I think I know what they're doing." "What do you mean?" I whispered. "I heard Aunt Lauren talking to Dad when I was playing hide-and-seek in the garden, hiding behind the lilac bushes." She said, "It'll all be over soon. We just need Claire to agree to the picnic." Dad said, "Just do what we planned. The insurance money's coming." I froze, like someone punched my chest. They hadn't just wanted us gone. They counted on life insurance. "I didn't tell you, because I thought they were joking." "I'm sorry." I hugged her, voice steady. "It's okay, Sophie. You've been so brave. I'm proud of you." I checked the backpack. Most supplies were lost, but a dry towel and one water bottle remained. I cleaned the scrape on Sophie's cheek, then assessed my leg. Pain shot through when I tried to move it, nearly blacking me out. I bit down, drawing blood to stay silent. It felt broken. My wrist was swollen, barely usable. But I had my right hand, my mind, and Sophie. We needed rescue, but my phone was likely smashed or lost. I turned to Sophie. "I can't walk fast, but you can. You might find the path back, but only if it's safe." She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "No, I'm not leaving you." I smiled faintly, pale from pain. "Then we'll go together, little by little. I'll lean on you, and we'll get out." Sophie nodded firmly. I broke off a branch as a crutch, leaning on it and my daughter, as we inched away from danger. Every step was agony, but I didn't stop. Once we made it out, the truth would come to light, and no one, not even family, could hide what they'd done. We walked through the forest for 3 hours, each step a battle between pain and will. I wanted to collapse, but Sophie held my hand, whispering, "Mommy, we're almost out." I gripped her hand and kept going. By late afternoon, we stumbled across an elderly couple camping near a creek. Mrs. Ellen nearly jumped when she saw me covered in blood, limping, while Sophie dropped, exhausted. "Can you hear me?" her husband asked. I opened my mouth, but words caught. Everything became a haze, sirens growing louder, Sophie's hand in mine, her calm voice telling paramedics I protected us. 3 days later, I regained consciousness in a hospital room, my arm in a cast, leg propped up, bandages covering cuts and bruises. Sophie was curled in a chair beside me, asleep, her tangled hair falling over her cherished face. A man in civilian clothes sat quietly, his demeanor calm but firm, eyes kind. He introduced himself as Detective Sullivan from the Chittenden County Police Department and said he needed to ask about what happened. Despite the pain, I recounted everything: the outing, Lauren's behavior, the terrifying fall. I spoke slowly, clearly, leaving out nothing. When I mentioned Sophie overhearing Ryan and Lauren, Sullivan paused, scribbling in his notebook. Your daughter remembered their conversation clearly. I nodded. She's sharp and I trust everything she told me. He sat back. We've reviewed your husband's financial records. For months ago, Ryan updated your life insurance policy to $3 million, listing himself as the sole beneficiary. A chill crept down my spine. $3 million. He nodded gravely. The witness who signed the amendment? Your sister, Lauren T. Harris. My heart pounded, head spinning. So they weren't on it together. Ryan and Lauren. It goes deeper, Sullivan said. We traced a bank transfer from your mother to Ryan a week before the incident. Memo line, final payment for the plan, $500,000. My breath caught. My parents too? Sullivan didn't look away.
I'm sorry, Claire.
All signs point to a conspiracy involving your husband, sister, and parents. Messages suggest they'd been coordinating for over 6 months, likely intending to silence you and your daughter. The walls closed in. The people I trusted most had plotted my demise. Sullivan continued. We issued warrants for Ryan and Lauren after your statement. But when our team reached their locations, both had vanished. Ryan's car was found near a private airstrip. My stomach dropped. This wasn't over. Will you catch them?
I asked.
We've issued a federal warrant. I recommend you and Sophie go into protective custody until we ensure your safety. I looked at Sophie's sleeping face, dotted with healing cuts, and felt strength rise. I wasn't the broken woman who fell off a cliff. I'd survived and would fight for justice. 3 days later, I moved to a secure recovery room with law enforcement outside. Sophie was under a social worker's care as the investigation deepened. When Sullivan returned, his thicker case file showed purpose. We got a hit from a toll booth camera 200 miles out, capturing Lauren driving out of Vermont, likely toward New Hampshire. The warrant's now federal. I gripped the bed, wrist bandaged. What about Ryan? Sullivan flipped a page. He's using an alias, Daniel Morrison. He booked a private flight, but it was canceled last minute, possibly suspecting we were on him. I exhaled. They weren't free yet. The next day, I met a government-appointed attorney. He confirmed, we have financial records, your daughter's testimony, and text messages from Ryan's old phone, found in his abandoned car. This case has enough for attempted murder, conspiracy, and insurance fraud. Sophie walked in with a social worker, throwing her arms around me, her face lighting up despite bandages. Mommy, I told Detective Sullivan everything. I remember it all. I blinked. You gave a statement? She nodded, looking at Sullivan, who smiled. This little girl is sharp and composed. She recounted everything. Lauren's call with Ryan, Evelyn, and Henry's conversation about how everything would be fine if Claire didn't push back. I looked at my daughter, torn between heartbreak and pride. She was 6, yet key to unraveling the hidden truth. Were you scared? I asked softly. She shook her head. No, I thought if I told the truth, you wouldn't have to be scared anymore. I held her tightly, her breath steadying against my chest. Everything wasn't over, but we were heading right. 2 days later, police found Ryan in a cash-only rental cabin on New Hampshire's edge, arrested at dawn while burning papers and destroying his laptop. Lauren was caught that afternoon at a roadside gas station, trying to swap vehicles off-record, recognized by a security camera. That evening, Sullivan updated me. Both are in custody, being extradited to Vermont. For your parents, Henry and Evelyn, we've issued subpoenas. They were recorded discussing a split agreement with Ryan. It's undeniable. I looked out the hospital window, late afternoon sun casting soft light through trees. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't afraid. 3 days later, we were discharged but advised to move into a secured witness protection residence until the trial. In a closed press briefing, police confirmed evidence of a coordinated murder plot for a $3 million life insurance payout, with a 6-year-old girl as the sole surviving witness and key to uncovering the plan. I held Sophie's hand as we watched the broadcast in an unfamiliar place under 24/7 protection. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. The truth was on our side. 8 months after surviving the fall in Green Mountain National Forest, the trial of Ryan, Lauren, and my parents began at Chittenden County Courthouse. Burlington buzzed with disbelief that a perfect family faced attempted murder charges. On the first day, I arrived in a wheelchair, arms braced from a fracture not fully healed. Sophie sat beside me, gripping my hand, wearing a sky blue dress she chose because it's Mommy's favorite color. I didn't cry or fear. I brought the truth and a mother's unwavering strength. Ryan entered in a gray suit, expressionless. Lauren followed, hair tied neatly, eyes gliding past me like I was a stranger. My parents, Henry and Evelyn, kept their heads down, avoiding eye contact. I was used to that look. I'd grown up with it. The prosecutor opened with a sharp indictment, detailing the murder plot, insurance fraud, and child endangerment. Every fact cut, but I sat calmly. I'd survived to expose this. On the second day, I testified, the courtroom silent as I recounted the outing, the fall, the pain, and the betrayal. My voice was steady. I looked Ryan in the eye. You didn't kill me, and you'll never get what you wanted, because Sophie is not something you can trade for money. Lauren kept her head down, never looking at me. Sophie testified via pre-recorded video under child witness protection. Her voice was small but clear. I heard Aunt Lauren tell my dad that Mommy and I wouldn't be here anymore if everything went right. I was scared, but I trusted Mommy. She protected me. She's a good person. No one held back tears, not even the judge. During their defense, Ryan stood, voice bitter. I was pushed into a corner. Claire wasn't the woman I loved. She controlled everything. I wanted freedom from that suffocating life. Lauren wasn't softer. Claire always acted like she was right, the victim. If she weren't around, Ryan would have been happy. We wanted to be free. I sat quietly. Their words no longer hurt. They revealed their guilt. It wasn't just murder they attempted, but denial of accountability. When asked for last words before sentencing, my parents said nothing about me or Sophie. Henry mumbled, "We thought she didn't deserve that life." The judge struck the gavel 3 times. The verdict: defendants Ryan Thompson and Lauren T. Harris are sentenced to 25 years for first-degree attempted murder, barred from contacting witnesses post-conviction. Defendants Henry and Evelyn T. Harris are sentenced to 15 years for conspiracy to commit murder and child endangerment. I closed my eyes, exhaling a breath I'd held my whole life. I wasn't happy or sad, just relieved. Justice had spoken the names of those who once called me daughter. After the trial, strangers, former neighbors, old friends, even people I'd never met, approached us, hugging us, saying, "You survived for those too afraid to speak." I leaned down, hugged Sophie, and whispered, "We did it, Sophie. Now it's time to start living." We didn't return to Burlington. Police advised staying in witness protection until threats cleared, but I requested a transfer far away, without memories, where no one knew our names, where Sophie could start over. With help from my attorney and a survivor support group, I reconnected with Hannah, a high school classmate I hadn't spoken to in nearly 10 years. When she heard what happened, she said, "Come here. Stay as long as you need." Boone, North Carolina, welcomed us on an early spring morning. Snow hadn't fully melted, but new buds pushed through the earth. Hannah lived with her husband and 2 kids in a cabin on the edge of the woods, a 15-minute drive from town. The air was peaceful, and for the first time, Sophie slept through the night. I began working part-time at a small clinic downtown. Dr. Margaret, the owner, was stern but compassionate. At our first meeting, she said, "I don't need to know your past, but I see caution in your eyes. That's what patients need. If you're willing, you've got a job." I nodded, gratitude overwhelming. The work wasn't much, but it gave me rhythm. The sound of blood pressure monitors, the click of drawers, the scent of antiseptic restored control after chaos. Sophie enrolled in a small elementary school down the road from Hannah's house. At first, she was shy, often alone at recess. But weeks in, her teacher called. Today, Sophie drew a picture of her family, a girl holding hands with a woman under the sun. She said, "That's me and my mom, because we walked through a dark night." I was silent, eyes stinging, then said, "Thank you for telling me." Sophie and I saw a trauma therapist, Dr. Lisa Bennett, weekly. She let Sophie draw, play with sand, and describe her dreams simply. With me, she said, "Don't force yourself to forgive. Focus on survival." Week by week, Sophie smiled more, telling stories about how Jason spilled milk on a shirt and didn't cry, or how the teacher read books in a funny voice. Small things, proof she was becoming a child again. One Friday, cooking dinner with Hannah, Sophie ran in, cheeks pink. "Mom, we're going on a field trip tomorrow. The teacher said you can come." I remembered myself in the forest, hands bloodied, never letting go of my daughter. I smiled. "Of course I'll come. You and me, we always go together." That night, after Sophie slept, I stepped onto the porch, gazing at a star-filled sky. I thought of what I'd lost, a family, a marriage, people who called me daughter, sister. But I thought of what I had, a brave girl, real friends, a second chance in a place where no one knew my name, where I could live without fear. It happened naturally. The first person to strike up a conversation was Mr. Stephen Hayes, the principal at Sophie's school, met during a parent meeting 3 months after she started in Boone. Stephen was tall, with salt and pepper hair and kind eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses, radiating patience and warmth I hadn't seen in a man for years. After the meeting, he caught me untangling Sophie's jacket from a door handle. "You're Sophie's mom, right?" "I'm Stephen Hayes, the principal." She's a wonderful student. I smiled, guarded. Thank you. She's trying hard to catch up. He said gently. You don't need to explain. We don't care about anyone's past. All we care is that today. Sophie smiled on the playground. After that, I saw Stephen more often when picking Sophie up. Brief greetings grew into longer, deeper conversations. I shared about my clinic work, Sophie, our journey. He told me about teaching math before becoming a principal, choosing a small town over the city. Stephen never asked about my scars or why Sophie woke screaming. He listened when I was ready and sat in silence when I needed space to heal. Sophie's 8th birthday came on a snowy day. I planned a small gathering in Hannah's backyard, but Hannah invited neighbors, clinic coworkers, Stephen, and teachers. Sophie wore a light purple dress, saying it looked like the sky when I hugged Mommy at sunset. She ran among laughter, balloons, cake, and gift boxes, her face glowing like winter sunlight. I watched from the kitchen as Stephen knelt to retie Sophie's slipping scarf, both laughing. For the first time, I didn't feel left behind. After the party, Stephen stayed to help clean. As I loaded dishes, he handed me an envelope. A little gift from the school for students who've been through tough times, movie tickets, and a book. I took it, nearly tearing up. He stood still, then said seriously, Claire, I don't know what brought you here, but you and your daughter brought something special. Strength, hope, kindness. I said nothing, fingers tightening around the envelope. Do you believe family can be created, not just born into? I asked. Stephen's deep, gentle look was a perfect answer. That night, tucking Sophie into bed, she whispered, Mom, can I call Mr. Stephen uncle? He's kind, like he's part of our family. I smiled softly. You can call him anything you want, as long as you feel safe and happy. I stood by the bedroom window, watching snowfall. Each flake covered traces of what we'd left behind. Sophie was right. Family isn't just blood. It's where someone waits with kindness, patience, and unconditional love. I found that in Sophie's eyes, friends' embraces, and a man who tied a scarf for an 8-year-old with all his heart. Our story isn't just survival. It's proof that real family comes from those who choose to love and stay. We lost everything to find what matters: freedom, peace, trust. In a world of uncertainty, I've learned no matter how dark the past, with love and faith, we can rewrite our lives from shattered pieces.